Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Monday, May 14th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis. No Dana Lane today, hoping he'll be back later in the week, but we've got two games to break down. We're going to talk about both conference finals. We've got Game 2, Vegas Golden Knights, Winnipeg Jets tonight. And then Game 3, Tampa Bay Lightning, Washington Capitals, with the scene shifting to D.C. for Tuesday night and Game 3 of that series, with the Capitals up 2-0 in stunning fashion in that series. So we'll get into both of them. Let's get right to it here. Let's go to the Peg tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets. It's game number 2. Winnipeg leading the series 1-0 after a fairly comfortable and commanding win in Game 1. Here in Game 2, Winnipeg laying -150, the total 6 shaded to the under slightly at about -120 here in this hockey game. And for the Winnipeg Jets, very impressive win considering what they were coming out of and coming off of in the second round. I mean, a grueling series against Nashville, 7 games, division rival, and to come out flying out of the gate in Game 1 and really take the play to the Vegas Golden Knights and get out to that early 3-0 lead, which did include a controversial goal call, but nevertheless, they were full marks for that 3-0 lead. And to me, for the first time in these playoffs, and I can totally understand why this happened for the Vegas Golden Knights, for the first time in these playoffs, they looked a little shell-shocked, a little stunned by the atmosphere, the environment, but more than anything, the speed of the Winnipeg Jets. That was about a 360-degree change in level of speed, level of forward depth that the Vegas Golden Knights saw from the Winnipeg Jets in comparison to the LA Kings and the San Jose Sharks in the first 2 rounds. And it definitely took Vegas time to get adjusted to that. That first 10 minutes of the first period, to be honest, debacle for them pretty much. I mean, Winnipeg was swarming them. Even Marc-Andre Fleury not sharp, not ready, not his greatest first 10 minutes of the playoffs by any stretch in that first period the other night. But once Vegas settled down and they got that 3-1 goal, they didn't play terribly after that. Defensively, they were a lot better against Winnipeg. The problem that Vegas had, though, even when they got that first goal to make it 3-1, give themselves a puncher's chance in that game, is that after that, the chances 5-on-5 were just not there. The forecheck was not there. The offensive zone time was not there. They just didn't really just didn't have Winnipeg running around enough in their own zone. Once they got that first goal, Winnipeg shut off the middle of the ice. Winnipeg didn't give Vegas an easy path to the net. They did a great job blocking shots. Could not get pucks through to the net from the point area. That was an issue all night for the Vegas Golden Knights as well. It's just 5-on-5. It was a meager effort from the Vegas Golden Knights. 21 shots they had in that game, certainly from a shot output and just general ability to have good offensive zone time. That's about as weak as I've seen out of Vegas in this entire playoff. So you got to give Winnipeg credit for that. But now this is the time where if you would expect this Vegas team to be maybe a little bit more at ease now playing in Winnipeg against this team. They've seen the speed now. They've seen 4 lines that can all contribute for this Jets team. Now a chance maybe to adjust a little bit. And let's not gloss over the fact either with this Vegas Golden Knights team, not just how good they've been, but how tremendous they've been following a loss. It has been a very, very strong track record. You look back in the 2 losses they suffered in the second round against San Jose. What did they do? They bounced back each time after that to win the next game. What's Marc-Andre Fleury now? Something like 14-2 in that I know it's either 13-2 or 14-2 now in his last 15 or 16 starts off a loss. So I think you're going to get a better Marc-Andre Fleury tonight. I like his attitude. Gerard Gallant tried to excuse his goalie a little bit. He said, I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury had a lot of chances on the shots that he that got by him in Game 1. Marc-Andre Fleury said, I'm not having any of that. He said, I do need to be better. There was one or a couple of goals in particular that I felt I could have stopped and maybe should have stopped. So I like that mindset. I like that attitude from Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm not going to let my coach bail me out. If I think I could have stopped that shot, I'm not going to let my coach say, oh, I had no chance on that. If I think I could be better, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to look to be better in the next game. That's a positive type of mindset in my mind for Marc-Andre Fleury going into Game 2 tonight. So I'm actually going to go ahead. It's not easy, with bet fading Winnipeg. They've been terrific. I understand that. But Vegas has their own terrific track record off a loss. And unlike Tampa Bay, when they were in that bounce back spot in Game 2 last night, laying -190, you're not laying -190 here with Vegas. You're taking +130. I mean, you're taking a much different price range here in a bounce back spot here with the Golden Knights. That's the way I'm going to go. I'll take Vegas here plus 130. I don't think this series is done just yet by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to have to generate 5-on-5, going to have to do a better job staying out of the penalty box, which was another issue the Golden Knights had in game one. And Winnipeg sort of made them pay 2 power play goals for the Jets in game one of that series. Definitely staying out of the box going to be a key for the Golden Knights. Marchessault had a quiet game for the most part. James Neal wasn't a big factor. I mean, all of the big guns, William Karlsson held down. So all of those big guns for the Vegas Golden Knights held down in game one. I'd expect all of them to raise their game. The quotes are all positive. This is not a woe is us, negative feeling. Doesn't mean, of course, they're going to win the game, but this is not a negative sounding Vegas dressing room coming out of game one. They say, okay, we weren't good. We've all got to elevate. We've all got to step up. Everybody's saying the same thing. As a team, we've got to collectively be better. That's a good quote. And I think you're going to see a much better Vegas team. Doesn't mean they'll win. Obviously, the step-up effort doesn't mean a winning effort. Things can go wrong still, and a little bad bounce, bad call here or there can still cost you. But I do think we get Vegas stepping up, and that's enough for me to take a shot with them tonight, plus 130. Alex B. Smith, let's get to you. Vegas, Winnipeg, game two. What do you like tonight?
Well, I was on Vegas in game one, and I said going in that I liked Vegas in that game because of the spot of them coming off of rest against a Jets team that had come off of a very grueling, game seven, and didn't have as much time of rest. And we saw, like I said, the speed and physicality of Winnipeg at one of its highest levels throughout this entire postseason. So now you got to wonder, okay, yes, Vegas is now going to get settled into Winnipeg, but now Winnipeg's finally going to get some rest. They're finally getting back to a regular rotation as far as the playoff is concerned. Of all right, we've had our game, finally got our legs under us, and played very well. So now we've got another game at home. We have a chance to take a commanding 2-0 lead before going on the road to Vegas. This is something you just can't really overlook it or overthink it too much. Winnipeg has won 14 of its last 16 at home, 20 of its last 25 overall. And the size and speed, like I said, the speed obviously was going to be different from the get go from the eyes of the Golden Knights. Obviously, like I said, this is a much faster team than LA or San Jose by a long shot. But the fact that the Jets were able to come through with that kind of intensity in game one, coming off of a grueling game seven, and outwork a team that had been rested, and the rest. I don't know if the rest was exactly a downward factor now for Vegas, or if it was just simply Winnipeg just played a better game. Obviously, yes, there was the bad call to make the 3-0 lead for Winnipeg. The fact that no one saw, the fact that no one talked about the guy being in the crease, let alone saying, "Oh, it was interference," or if it tipped off of the back of a skate or whatever. We can go all day about that. But the fact is, Vegas was outworked by Winnipeg, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see more of that again now because both teams have gotten even more rest, especially in the set of Winnipeg. Winnipeg knows they can't afford to try and dilly-dally around with a 1-1 lead going back into Vegas, where the Knights are a much stronger team. You can get a plus 110 on the regulation line. I don't think this is going in overtime. So if you do like Vegas, look at the regulation line. By all means, I've seen plus 200 as well. So, but I'm going to be on Winnipeg tonight at plus 110 on the regulation line.
Yeah, great value on the reg line for Vegas in particular, plus 200. Again, that's good. That's actually worth a little sprinkle if you think they're going to win this game. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. Winnipeg's a great hockey team. I mean, my reason for betting on Vegas here tonight is because this team's consistently been an respond to adversity team, respond with our backs against the wall kind of team. I'm hoping we see that again tonight. But again, this is going to be like Tampa for me. Like with Tampa last night, I gave them their chance to maybe show me that they can bounce back, tie the series. Now that they didn't get it done, I'm now very, very gun shy with Tampa moving forward. Same thing here. If Vegas loses tonight and loses maybe badly, say 4-1, 4-2 type of deal, I'm going to be gun shy going forward to take Vegas again until they show me they can change the complexion and change the course of this series. And right now we're seeing Tampa Bay struggle with Washington to do that, and maybe Vegas is going to have a tough time doing that. My question here, though, tonight with Winnipeg is, do we have that killer instinct in you if you're the Jets? One issue they had against Nashville was couldn't follow up a win with another one. It was consistently give the serve back to Nashville. Nashville would bounce back and get the win after a loss. Winnipeg would not put their foot down and win 2 straight games in that series. They seemed to, I don't know, a lack of urgency, just, a little satisfaction sets in after a win, and they just don't have that same burst and that same just that like urgency really the next game. And that's my concern with Winnipeg. We saw it throughout the Nashville series. They kept letting Nashville right back at it. And there'd be some games in that series, especially at home, where Winnipeg, after a win against Nashville, that 4-0 game, I remember in game number 6. I mean, where was that urgency to finish the series there for the Winnipeg Jets? So that is another reason why I'm kind of on Vegas here. Urgency question marks about Winnipeg. Can you put your foot down, win 2 straight, take a stranglehold in this series? We'll find out if the Jets got it in them to do that tonight. Andrew, Winnipeg, Vegas, what do you like?
Yeah, Ian, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you talk about that urgency and the response to adversity and everything like that. And to me, that all adds up to an underplay in this one. I mean, in game one, I thought that this Winnipeg team had the advantage because they hadn't had so much rest. And let me give you a second just to explain what I meant by that. I mean, not because I don't think they'll be tired. I just think they're game shape ready. They've played the game so recently. They're all coming off a fresh game 7. They know what it takes. They just won a huge game. All lines are clicking, and everyone knows there's a lot of a big difference between a practice, a scrimmage, or a tough practice, whatever, and an actual playoff game. So, I honestly am a big believer in sometimes even if a team sweeps another team or if it doesn't go, too long of a series, it could be a negative effect on that team strictly because they kind of, like Danny likes to use the word, their belly could be full. They could be too excited already, and they're not really game shape ready. Whereas this Winnipeg team, talk about that first period, guys. They came out ready. They came out firing. And the one thing I'm always going to say about this Winnipeg team, guys, is that they have a perfect mixture of young guys and that veteran leadership. I think that's what makes this team so special. Is that you've got guys, and I'm going to continue to say it. You got guys like Line and Ehlers that can be those young guys for you, even guys like Kyle Connor. And then you've got guys like Mark Scheifele, who obviously isn't too old, but him and Blake Wheeler, guys like that, and they all have their role. They all know their role, and they can continuously show it to us. And I think that Vegas hasn't really seen a team like this yet in the playoffs. And we talked about how dangerous this Sharks team is, Ian, but I think they're a different kind of dangerous. I mean, they can kind of get you from certain, their experience and their smarts and stuff like that, and just setting up plays in the neutral zone. In the offensive zone, but with the way this Winnipeg Jets team is, I mean, you make one turnover, you get one bad play, and all of a sudden they're off on the 2-on-1 rush, and you're leaving your goalie out to dry. So for me, I've seen Marc-Andre Fleury bounce back when he was playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I've seen him do it extraordinarily when he's played for this Las Vegas Golden Knights team. I think that's what we see tonight here. We see two teams right now that can play both low scoring and high scoring. We saw this Vegas team when they played LA, and how many low scoring games we see in that series, or how many 1-goal games at least we see in that series. And I think the way that this Vegas Golden Knights team has to respond, they have to come in with that defense first mentality. They have to come in with that shutdown mentality. I mean, they're not going to go goal for goal with this talented Winnipeg Jets team if they want to reach the Stanley Cup final. They had to play a defensive game. They had to come in with that mindset. They're going to shut down those top guys and take advantage of their mistakes. And then capitalize on that and try and make Hellebuck pay. But I gotta say, Ian, Hellebuck does look pretty locked into me, even though he's doing that weird neck thing in the anthems before the game starts. I know you probably noticed that as well. His little traditions he's kind of started, but other than that, he's looking ready to go. And I think Fleury comes back with a big response performance as well. So under 6 is my play on this game, minus 115. And it looks like we lost to Ian, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if he's going to touch back on that, but we'll move to the second game. Tampa Bay and Washington. Okay, Tampa Bay, Washington. I have to talk about that one real quick. I mean, I don't think either of us, or all three of us, all four of us, really expected to see what we're seeing in this. I mean, Alex, Dana, and I, when Ian was missing with his power being out, we talked about how this Washington team might have been a little bit too satisfied with their win against Pittsburgh, and they're coming into this series, and it's almost like they just kept on playing that same level they played against Pittsburgh, shutting down the top guys for Tampa Bay, and really proving to us that they do mean business. And they're heading back into Washington now, Alex. They're up 2-0, and we have to start to wonder, can we really start taking this Washington Capitals serious? I know, can we really start taking them seriously? Because I know that as handicappers and as guys on this show, it's our job to make adjustments during series. So can we really make that adjustment and say, whoa, we can take this Capitals team serious, or do you need one more game to really see what Tampa has to offer?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really handicapped Washington at all. What have I pretty much said this entire postseason? I said, they've got to prove to me that they can play at the level we've seen throughout countless regular seasons during the postseason. Well, they've finally done that. They've shut me up. They've won 8 of the last 10. They've won 3 of their last 4 in convincing fashion. And now, not only have they completely stolen home ice away from Tampa Bay, but now they're about to go home and play a team that they've won 11 of the last 13 meetings against. Like I said, the domination that they've had against Tampa Bay in the regular season clearly is now transferring over into the postseason. Alex Ovechkin's on another level. This whole team has finally gotten rid of the jitters that we've seen from previous postseason. This team is playing pretty much like they have at the middle of every regular season over the last decade. So there is no way I'm going to be going against Washington at this point, especially now we're getting a price. I'm seeing a minus $1.15, minus $1.20. Uh, the time for Tampa Bay to really step up and make a statement was in game 2 to try and even this series up, and they laid another egg. They're looking kind of like they did toward the middle of the year when we saw Vasilevsky worn out, and even though we're seeing key players step up, Stamkos scoring, we've seen Victor Hedman do as much as he can, but they're only contributing in one way, and they're not doing anything on the back end, and Washington's exploiting it left and right. So going back home, which is going to be an insane crowd now. We talk about crowd advantage in the Western Conference. I think now we're going to have the craziest crowd in the East for sure in DC. I think the Capitals should be able to get a 3-0 lead and they should be able to win tomorrow night.
Yeah, for me, I really see this as, a lot of respect goes up to this Washington Capitals team, and you see the way they handle that Pittsburgh Penguins team. And, you guys know how high I was on Pittsburgh and how much I love the depth of that team and so much talent down the roster of that Pittsburgh Penguins team. But, I really had to take a second, take a deep breath and say, look, this Washington Capitals team is doing something. They're doing something to shut those players down. I mean, it's not happening by accident, right? They're not just skimming through the playoffs. And I think a big factor is Alex and Ian. I think it's also the fact that Alex Ovechkin has us a little more of a supporting cast this year. We're seeing Kuznetsov play extraordinarily well. He's looking very comfortable out there. He's looking like he's on a mission right now. Let's talk about Tom Wilson getting a goal the other day. I mean, everyone's just stepping up and doing the right thing for them. And I kind of have to say, even though Tampa Bay does have that defensive collapse and they didn't really look like themselves, that's what really worried me about this Tampa Bay team all year long, guys. That's why I wasn't too high on them throughout these playoffs, because any given night they can have these defensive collapses. I mean, you look during the regular season, they're known for scoring in such high numbers, so no one really noticed how many goals they also gave up as well, if that makes any sense to you guys. So I really think if this Washington Capitals team can narrow down on defense, I mean, they're really proving something to us. Ian, what are your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Washington?
Yeah, this is going to be a pass for me, to be honest. Game 3, I'm not going to be involved. I certainly don't want Tampa, not anymore after what I saw in Game 2. They've been absolutely awful at trying to get any kind of thrust and surge of offense at even strength in the first 2 games of this series. They've done nothing. They haven't generated anything. If not for 2 power play goals last night, they're losing that damn game 6-0 on their home ice. The power play is what got them those 2 goals, and some very suspect penalty calls with one of those penalties that led to that Tampa Bay power play. What kind of penalty was that on Oshie? Didn't even hit the guy, for Christ's sake. It was a puck that hit him. I mean, what a brutal call that was. I can't believe we've got officiating now. You put these referees through to this level of the playoffs, the conference finals, and they have a screw up like that? Holy fuck. Terrible. But nevertheless, Tampa Bay took advantage of it. Give them credit for that. But if not for the power play, they're getting a goose egg, a big old fat zilch in terms of goals last night in Game 2. So that's an issue. Where is this 5-on-5 cycle? Where is this forecheck? Where is this grind the other team's defense like they did against Boston, like they did against New Jersey? They haven't done it. And we've got to start taking this Washington Capital blue line very seriously and give them their accolades and their props. I said it on the previous show, or one of the previous shows we've done here during the playoffs. I think it was yesterday, actually, with Dana Lane on the Sunday show. We talked about it. This defensive core, you look at them, they're not going to be household names, but look, John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, Matt Niskanen, Brooks Orpik with that physical, tough, stay-at-home-minded defensive play. Even Kempny coming over to this Capitals team has given them pretty good minutes. They're all playing collectively well, and they're shutting off the middle of the ice. They're turning Tampa Bay away once they get to the opposition blue line time and time again. And if not for power play opportunities, Tampa Bay is not generating sustained attack on Braden Holtby right now. And that has to change. That has to change before I lay another penny on the Tampa Bay Lightning. I have to see it change before I lay another penny on the Tampa Bay Lightning here in this series. again, the eyeball is telling me Washington has been, from a matchup standpoint right now, with the way they're playing, the level of defense they're playing, Braden Holtby the way he's playing, with suddenly the secondary scoring coming to life. And that was my big issue with Washington coming into the playoffs. Other than Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Oshie, who's going to put a puck in for you? I'm seeing Tom Wilson, as Andrew alluded to, scoring goals. Seeing Jacob Vrana step up and score. Lars Eller, who's filled in tremendously well. You can't even notice Nick Backstrom's absent and injured with the way Lars Eller's played for them and filled that role. Brett Connolly stepping up for crying out loud and scoring last night. Chandler Stevenson's popped in a goal or two. Now you get Burakovsky back. How about Devontae Smith-Pelly scoring a goal for you last night as well for Washington? I mean, go on down the list. I mean, they are getting their depth forwards, and I wasn't convinced we would get step-up offense from these bottom six forwards for Washington going into the playoffs to help out the big guns. Well, they're getting it now, and that's why they're a very dangerous team with that secondary scoring, helping out the big guns, and of course, the big guns are still playing well. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov scoring goals. They've been excellent. Oshie's had chances. Even though he didn't score last night, he still had chances to score the goals, a couple of real good ones. So what if the finish starts to come back for TJ Oshie? Look out then for Washington. It'll be even more lethal at that point. So they're getting the secondary scoring that I wasn't convinced they could earlier in the playoffs. The big guns are playing well. The defense, again, nobody's going to stick out other than John Carlson. John Carlson's a bona fide, I'd say, one of the top defensemen in the league. But outside of that, they're getting everybody else collectively stepping up, playing great. Again, turning away Tampa Bay's speed, keeping everything to the outside, not able to get to the middle of the ice. Everything was from the outside from Tampa last night. Shots from the point from way back in the boards area, tough angle shots. They couldn't get anything really in the slot area other than the power play goals they scored. So 5-on-5, there was nothing there, none, zero for Tampa Bay offensively last night. And that's going to be a concern moving forward. And of course, Andre Vasilevsky's looked human. I mean, there's been no argument who the better goalie's been in the first two games of this series. Vasilevsky's been massively inferior to Braden Holtby. So for me, I understand this is Tampa Bay. This is the 3-0 hole you absolutely will not get out of if you go into it. But I think Tampa Bay's already in a lot of trouble. And even though, the spot, this is not the time to be betting solely on the spot. You've got to be betting on maybe just getting away from Tampa, going on the road is going to make things click for Tampa Bay, because the spot was supposed to be last night. That was supposed to be the spot for them to respond, bounce back, play better, and everything just totally unraveled for them. And that sequence at the end of the second period tells me it's a little bit of a fragile group right now. And I'm not taking a fragile team going on the road down 2-0 at this kind of price where it's just basically even money to bet them on the road. Sorry. So I'm leaning Washington. It's the only way I would bet it, but I'm probably going to pass, stay out of this game, lean over the total as well. I'm not convinced Washington is an offense that Tampa Bay is going to slow down here on the road, because they had trouble with it in the first two games in Tampa, and it's probably a concern for me moving forward as well. So again, I understand people always looking for bounce back theories and things like that, and teams not done just yet, maybe getting on the road down 2-0. But at some point, you have to look at them in the mirror and say, what have I seen? What have I witnessed in two games in this series? And what I've witnessed is nothing that leads me to a Tampa Bay Lightning wager in Game 3 on Wednesday night, nothing, or Tuesday night, nothing. So I've got to see something positive first from the Lightning in Game 3 before I even consider them back in this series. So for me, I'm going to leave Game 3 alone. I might look at the over, but maybe more in the first period. I'll probably split that up. I'll look first period over, full game over, because that series has had some wide open play, particularly on the Tampa Bay defensive side. And Ryan McDonagh, could you be any more of a terrible, do a terrible job any more than you've done so far? It's been an absolute brutal performance from him since getting him at the trade deadline. He was actually a tremendous defenseman last year, 2 years ago. He had some very good seasons. He was not really good for the Rangers. He was as much at fault for the Rangers being such a poor defensive team in front of Henrik Lundqvist early this season as anybody. Tampa Bay is basically trading for him, thinking I'm going to get 2017, 2016, 2015 Ryan McDonagh. Here's a guy that can't even make one crisp, clean pass without turning it over a lot of times now in his own zone. And one of those turnovers led to a Washington goal last night. So not a good enough job from Ryan McDonagh. Not enough return ROI. Stevie Y is looking for ROI, return on investment for his trade for Ryan McDonagh. He didn't get what he was looking for, I think, with that. JT Miller's actually been pretty good for Tampa Bay, but they're not getting it on the Ryan McDonagh end. That is for certain. I think you guys have already talked about this game, but any last comments on this game before we go to best bets?
Well, just one thing with the over, like
I'm
I mentioned it in the chat about Tampa Bay and Washington have been trending highly. They over 21, 9-2, going back to the last 32, but even 15 of 22 in a more recent stretch. I wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. Where I think we do see a little bit more offense from Tampa Bay, but that's not saying that they're going to be able to slow down any of, like you mentioned. There's a wealth of offensive talent right now, or just guys stepping up to a different level. So you guys like Michael Kempney are finding the back of the net. So the offensive depth right now looks much greater on the side of Washington. So I would look, if anything, at the over, but I'm definitely going to be playing on the Caps.
All right, Andrew, anything to
Yeah,
add?
I think that ultimately, I just don't think that the one Tampa Bay is going to slow down this Washington offense, but two, I don't think that I think that Tampa Bay is going to really have to throw everything that they have, guys. I mean, like Ian mentioned, they're getting shots from way too far outside. They're going to get traffic. They got to get back to playing regular, old-fashioned hockey. I mean, a lot of times you say, keep doing what got you there, right? Keep playing that all-star type hockey. But you know what, guys? I'm trying to be a little too fancy, trying to be a little too cute, trying to make those nice goals. Playoffs aren't all about those nice goals. It's just about getting there and playing a defensive hockey game. And we're getting a 6 again. I think around -110. Good enough price for me. And I think that as far as this game goes, and we can all agree, right? It's a do or die game probably for Tampa Bay right now, headed back to DC. That there's going to be just everything getting thrown on net. They're going to be in desperation mode. I'm not even looking at taking Tampa Bay because I don't know what Washington's going to keep throwing at them. But this game has to go over in my eyes. And as far as the Winnipeg game goes, I think Fleury does respond back and keep that score low.
All right, so there you go. An under for Andrew tonight, an over for Andrew tomorrow night with Washington and Tampa Bay. Yeah, over would be. I'd look at the total, not the side, if anything, tomorrow night. But I got time to mull that one over. Sidewise, I know it would be Washington or pass, but I'm leaning toward pass as of right now. All right, let's go to best bets. Wrap up this Monday show. We got two games to choose from. The way we're going to do it with the best bet segment is the day, like the Sunday when we do that show and there's only one game to talk about. We're not going to do a best bet segment because you want a couple of games at least that you can choose from. But for the shows like this where we're talking about more than one game, we'll definitely do a best bet segment. So we'll do one for today from either the Vegas game tonight or the Tampa game tomorrow night. Best bet can come from either one of those. Let's go to Andrew first. What do you like? Best bet for the next two nights?
Yeah, the one I just talked about the most, I'm going to have to go with the over in the Tampa Bay Washington game. I think that we haven't quite seen the regular Tampa Bay team we're used to seeing. And, as much as a hole that they're in right now, guys, I'm not ready to give up on them quite yet. But I'm more so impressed with Washington than I am disappointed in Tampa Bay. And for that reason, I'm hoping on a huge game three out of this Tampa Bay team to kind of exploit this Washington defense. But let's not forget, guys, Braden Holtby did not start this playoffs off for the Washington Capitals, and that's a huge thing for him. And so looking back to that, he's been playing exceptional for them as well. Also, just really quickly, guys, I have a World Hockey play. It's very, very low odds, but Canada -3.5 kicks off or the puck drops in about 15 minutes. If you want to add that on to a parlay to any games you have or anything like that, the line is very skewed. The odds aren't great, but Canada -3.5 is a great play.
Yeah, that's an interesting game because on the one side you've got Canada off the loss to Finland. Terrible performance by them the other day. They need a bounce back. But that Latvia team, for some reason, they've kept it to a 1-goal, 2-goal, 3-goal game and a lot of performances against Canada in the past. And let's not undersell who the coach is of that Latvia team. Bob Hartley, who knows Canadian hockey, who knows the NHL very well. Bob Hartley, NHL head coach for a long time, Atlanta Thrashers, Calgary Flames, Colorado Avalanche, a long-time head coach in this league. Now the head coach of the Latvian national hockey program. That's a good hire, and Latvia has actually been a very feisty, competitive club, especially since he's taken over. So we'll see. I'll root you on, though, Andrew, for sure. Canada -3.5. We'll see if Canada puts their foot down after just a horrible loss for them. I'm worried about Canada in this World Hockey Championship. I'll be honest. I mean, they played a bunch of patsies, a bunch of nobodies, and rolled them all. South Korea, Norway, Denmark, all those teams. 2 step-up games against USA, Finland, 0-2 for Canada here in this World Hockey Championship. So, you know what? It's time to admit to yourself, if you're a Canadian and a Canadian hockey fan, this isn't pump my chest, we're going to beat everybody anymore in this sport. It's not the way it works anymore. Other countries are getting better. USA's getting a better program, with the youngsters like Matthews and Eichel and go on down the list in their program. You look at Finland's getting stronger and better. You get a Patrick Laine who's thriving in Winnipeg. They're a goalie factory. They're always going to be a tough out. Sweden's not a pushover. Russia's always good. This is not Canada anymore, dominates and just runs amok over the international hockey scene anymore. It's time to get out of the 80s and 70s and 90s. It's going to be tougher waters to navigate for Canada in future international tournaments.
And I do agree, but I think as far as that topic goes, I think you can look at USA and Canada and look at different games where they've beaten a couple teams where they maybe should have won by 6 or 7. They've beaten them by 2 or 3, and teams play down to their competition. I think that happens to both Canada and USA and Russia and a lot of great hockey countries. So I think we can't really judge that in these two teams or Russia or Czech Republic, Sweden, great hockey countries like that until the medal rounds come. And that's why I find international hockey so interesting to handicap because, sometimes you could literally be taking a wager on South Korea plus the goals because you're getting like 6.5 to 7.5 goals. I mean, just stuff like that, right? But I think that as far as this spot goes today against Latvia for Canada, I don't think they're going to play down to them. I think that they're way too talented, and it's 3.5 goals. I mean,
there we go. A little bonus World Hockey Championship chatter right here on the Ice Guys. You know what? It's funny because they've had these World Junior Hockey Championship, World Hockey Championships on TSN in Canada. NHL Network, by the way, in the United States usually simulcasts these events. So if you want to watch it down there, that's where you'd find it. Either NHL Network or NBC Sports Network. One of those usually does. It would be a nice life to be Gord Miller and Ray Ferraro, who call these events every year for TSN. Go to the World Junior Championship, the World Hockey Championship, visit all these Scandinavian, European countries. That'd be pretty cool. I kind of want to visit some of these countries, Denmark, Norway, Russia, Sweden, Finland. I wouldn't mind going there one of these days in my lifetime. That's a bucket list thing. Visit some of these hockey countries in Europe. Gord Miller and Ray Ferraro doing the games have had the good fortune to be able to take those trips. So that's something I'm thinking down the road maybe once we got a little more income under me, we can make some of these trips. I would be interested to take some of those trips to some of those hockey mad countries there in Europe. Let's get to Alex with his best bet. What do you got for us?
I'm going with tonight's contest. I am going with the Winnipeg Jets in regulation plus $1.10. Keep this in mind that this MTS Center could be cheering on their team the next time after this game could either be a clinching Game 5 or Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So they're going to be absolutely insane. If they get off to a quick lead like they did in Game 1, I don't see where either the team or crowd lets this Vegas team get anywhere close back into this contest. Like I said, Winnipeg won 14 of the last 16 at home, 20 of the last 25 overall. Like I said, the size advantage, the fact that they can match the speed, match the intensity of this Vegas team, and now getting back into a rhythm after getting all over, like I said, what had been a grueling and taxing series. I think, like I said, Winnipeg's been my pick the whole time to win this thing. I think they're proving their weight right now. They're going to take a 2-0 lead. They should win the night within 60 minutes. So Jets in regulation plus $1.10 is my best bet.
All right, Jets in regulation, best bet for Alex B. Smith tonight. So that means between Alex and I, it's a guaranteed winner night on the NHL Ice Guys because it's Vegas plus 130 for me. That's not true. If it goes to overtime here and the Jets win, we're both going to lose. So that's not exactly accurate because Alex's bet's in regulation here. So that actually could slip through the cracks. We could actually go 0-2. So scratch that. It's not guaranteed winner. Nevertheless, for me, my best bet will be Vegas plus 130. We'll see if they can even up this series. They've been tremendous off a loss. Winnipeg was not good off a win in the Nashville series. I've got a question about that. We'll see if that can continue. Vegas plus 130 for me, my best bet tonight in Game 2 of that series in the West. That's going to wrap things up, guys. Great show as always. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday. Again, the same. Wednesday's the late show, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Wednesdays our show is a little bit later in the day, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Note the start time on Wednesday, and we will break down the next games of this series. Game 3 for Vegas, Winnipeg. Game 4 for Tampa, Washington. That's coming up on Wednesday with our next show of the Ice Guys, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. For Alex B. Smith, for Andrew McGinnis, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the action in the Stanley Cup playoffs over the next 2 nights, and we'll see you again on Wednesday.